love, one of my favorite ones is this young Jewish girl. She's not young anymore, but so she grows up with an atheist father who was very abusive, very abusive. And he had a mantra. Every night he would tell his three girls, there is no God. Your life is worth less than a speck of dust. And Jesus is the biggest hoax ever perpetrated on mankind. And so every night she hears this,
Wow.
but she always prayed to God.
Mm-hmm.
Every night she prays. And she felt like God was real and there and comforted her. This is as a child, an abused child, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then at 16, her horse crushes her, falls back on her, crushes her. She's up above her body, 30 feet. And she knew she was dead, but she felt great. She sees a light over her shoulder and she turns and looks, and there's Jesus. But he's a light brighter than the sun, but she knew he's Jesus. And she said, it wasn't like I was thinking, what's a good Jewish girl like me doing with Jesus? I'm not supposed to be with Jesus.
Right.
Instead, she said, I knew this man.
Mm-hmm.
I knew him. And
Sure.
it was like a reunion, and he gives her a life review and shows her as a little girl, when she was praying at night, he's there beside her.
Yeah.
He's there.
Yeah.
Now, here's the fun part though. So she loves speed. You know, she would ride horseback, bareback, just flying, right? She was kind of a speed freak.
Mm-hmm.
So Jesus, and this is my point of that, God breaks our bounds. You know, he's a lot more fun than we imagine.
Mm-hmm.
So he gets this big grin on his face. And she said he grabs her hand and they take off.
Yeah.
And they are flying at first past. You know, people always have this idea of you travel through a tunnel. Well, not always.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's like through our atmosphere and then straight out into outer space.
Yeah. Right.
But in a dimension that's outside of our understanding.
Yep.
So it's the dimension all around us. So here she goes, and they are flying like at the speed of sound, the speed of light, she said. But it was like, she said, surfing a wave of light.
Yeah.
And she said, I could feel it on my feet. I was barefoot and I could feel it. And I'm looking at Jesus and he's got this big grin on his face. And she said, we were laughing the whole time. And he was saying, isn't this the most fun? And she said, it was the most fun I've ever had in my whole life.
Yeah. That's amazing. Yeah. It's fascinating, you know, how these different people from, you know, different walks of life and different experiences. It's like the dad doing that is a great example of what I was speaking to, right? Of here, he handed her darkness every day, dark perspective. And then now here comes the contrast. Oh, how much more beautiful and meaningful is it to her to have had that experience after the gift of what he offered. And by the way, he loved her enough to suffer in order to get to the state where he's that disconnected and that forgotten his origins, that he's like literally preaching that to her nightly because that was his truth and what he was feeling, and what you know, and suffered for that contrast ultimately. And what a sacrifice, what a gift. And now you start looking at it through that lens and it's like, oh, it's all happening for love. Like,
well, she came back and felt so loved and healed by God, because Jesus then takes her into this infinite light that she knows is God. Mm-hmm. And she says, but Jesus too, but I don't know how God can be light and God can be man and God can be alive. I don't know, she said, but that's what I experienced. Mm-hmm. But she comes back and is able to offer her father forgiveness and love.
Yeah.
And he didn't, he pushed it away. But last year, and Heidi and I are good friends now, last year on his deathbed, he acknowledged the wrongs he had done toward her.
Yeah. Wow.
And he opened his heart to God. Redemption
is inevitable. It's not if, but when. This life, another life, you know, you're in eternity. And it's, you know, I had Paul Selig on a few times on this podcast, and he's a channel, and his texts are really, you know, books are just straight, no editing, just straight channel material supposedly, and they're really potent and powerful. And one of the things that coming through him is, I make all things new. I make all things new. I make all things, and it's like the Father ultimately gets made new, right? The redemption it isn't over if we haven't won, I believe. And so that's a beautiful story and share. And speaking of stories, as we start to wind down here, perhaps, you have a story up your sleeve of, personal synchronicity, serendipity, positive paranormal story, that you'd care to share.
Wow. There's so many.
Yeah.
Here's an interesting thing. Just a couple of weeks ago, I was thinking about this because, studied thousands of these people who have clinically died, no heartbeat, brain waves. They have these incredible mystical experiences, right? And they come back changed.
Yeah.
And I, commonly say, yeah, I've never had anything like that. I don't get mystical experiences, and I've asked God about that. Like, okay, why, and I got the idea that I made you this way for a reason. You're a bridge, meaning I'm bridging the more analytical, science-minded, like, how does this make sense with the more mystical and all that? But here was my moment of aha. Is I had this thought, don't say that anymore. And I was like, why? And the thought was, you do hear the voice. You do hear the voice of God.
Yeah, you're creating.
And so here's what I did is I sat down and I started listing the times that I had heard the voice of God, and I came up with 100.
Wow.
100 that I chronicled. And I'll just give you one. Okay. So like I said, I was an engineer. When I'm living out in Santa Barbara, I'm working there and I'm learning these things, and I come back and my roommate was a communications coach. And I get excited about, you can tell I get excited about stuff, right? And I'm telling him what I've learned. And he goes, man, I think you have a gift of teaching. And I was like, no, Dave, no. I am terrified of public speaking. Never going to do it.
Yeah.
Not going to do it.
Yeah.
For months, he kept saying, let me coach you. And I kept saying, no.
Yeah.
And then one day I'm praying and I have a thought come into my mind. When you resist Dave, you resist me. And I knew I didn't think that thought because that terrified me.
Right.
And I say that because the thought came again. And on the third time, I said, okay. Now, when I first started, it was horrible. It was horrible. It was as bad as I was fearing.
Yeah, right.
But I've now spoken to hundreds of thousands of people in 30 countries.
Wow. Yeah.
And I look at that. I don't say that bragging. I say that going, oh my gosh.
Fear, forget everything and run, or face everything and rise, right?
And that God is speaking to us in our inner person if we'll listen, if we'll slow down and get quiet and really listen for his voice.
Yeah. If it scares you and excites you, I often will say it's probably for you. We're being pushed to overcome those things. So, because you were able to overcome that fear, look at the ripple of impact. That's one of the things that I love the most about, I always jokingly say, I do all the dharmic work I do, with this podcast, and have helped a lot of people to shift their perspectives to create more magic in their lives. And I say, I do it because I'm selfish. I'm just looking forward to the afterlife party where I get to see and feel I'm sure you've heard this before, people being shown, here's who you impacted and here's who they impacted as a part of that ripple. True ROI, the ripple of impact is everything. And you get to see and feel energetically, that in your life review. I'm sure you've seen and heard this. And I'm ready for the seeing and feeling anyone that I had a positive impact on, and hopefully making good on anyone that I didn't.
Yeah. Well, And back to your point, that's where there's forgiveness.
Yeah, right.
You know, God did what he did through Jesus, I believe, to forgive everyone of everything.
Yeah. Yeah. I always say with Jesus, and of course, with a Christian perspective, to me, it creates a little bit of a barrier to like, this is a conduit to source. And I believe when Jesus was a man, and when he said, I'll come back, Christ is a state of consciousness, like Buddha consciousness, like it's literally tapping into your divinity. And so I believe Christ consciousness is coming back. It's here now. I mean, I've looked over the last 20 years, 25 years of my own spiritual journey. And at first I would talk about these ideas of oneness and, source consciousness and everything. And people would be like, what are you smoking? And now I turn around and every 21-year-old at an event I'm hosting or whatever, yeah, of course I know I'm God. I'm one with God. Like that's old news. Like, so there is an awakening and a remembering. I believe Christ consciousness is permeating the planet now. And it is back, or as Paul Selig's book, I have come, I have come, I have come. It's here and wants to permeate each and every one of us and find the Christ itself within us. Whew, what a journey. What an awesome episode. So grateful to hear your perspectives on this topic and seeing it through your unique lens. I think it's so necessary to be that bridge, like you said, to the people who take someone like myself. I'm just too far out, that bridge is too weird. Like, but I can handle John, and I think that's a beautiful, beautiful thing. It's all
well,
needed.
And that's the, challenge maybe I'd give your audience is that I know there are a lot of people who are, raised around church or the Bible or all this and honestly have rejected it and become kind of closed to the fact that maybe there's more integration than I've realized. I mean, when you get hurt, it's hard not to shut down and close off. But don't mistake people for Jesus.
Don't
for
throw
God.
the baby out with the bathwater,
Exactly.
And I think a lot of people do that.
Yeah. We're all still learning.
Yeah. What is the best way for those who'd like to connect with you and continue learning through your offerings to the world and just, follow
Yeah,
you?
I'm, you can go to imaginethegodofheaven.com. So it's just the book title, imaginethegodofheaven.com.
Cool.
And got different things, different connections out there and what I'm doing.
Amazing.
All that.